to speak to that, Greg? Black box question.
At this point, we have been advised that it was recovered. That's part of the dive operations that's currently underway. They are. Is a black box? I don't know, but if there is, that's part of the dive operations that's currently underway. The NYPD scuba.
Louder.
Yeah, the NYPD scuba team, as indicated by the chair, has been assisting us since the last evening. They're doing a comprehensive search of the crash area. If in fact that item is recovered, that'll be turned over as part of the evidence.
You don't know
I don't know if this, right.
But is it possible that this model does not have a black box?
I have no idea. That would have to be directed to him. Yes, Pat? The area in question is, it's about 5 feet deep where the chopper went down. It's a very rocky substance on the bottom there. So there was challenges for the scuba people to get in there. Even to this day, we were doing recovery on the pier line and the shoreline where getting a boat in that close was tough. So it was a lot of the stuff our emergency service people, people from my office were out there physically walking the shoreline recovering items.
You said 5 feet deep?
5 feet deep, roughly. Yes.
Question for Mayor Phillips. Do you know if the brother-in-law is flying in Spain and arrived yet?
I believe they said it was an hour and a half from now until he arrives. Is that what they said?
Yes, all the
He was,
fam.
he was flying in this morning, and then they said an hour and a half from.
He'll be arriving about.
Yeah, in about an hour from now, he'll be arriving.
So the question for the gentleman from emergency management, how big is the debris field? Yesterday we saw boats spread out quite far. There was some debris found, as far north as Hoboken Terminal. How large of an area are your divers, NYPD divers, having a search?
Well, that's the discretion of the Coast Guard. Obviously, they've been establishing where the dives are currently operating. The one location that they're looking at, they've discovered some information based on sonar and things like that. It's approximately 75 feet deep, so it's a pretty wide area right now. Primarily, we're in the area of the crash site and then working outward. But as the dive teams discover items that doesn't appear normal, they're marking them, and then based on the currents and things like that, they'll be back to continue their dives in that area.
Can I get a clarification on something? I just want to make sure I heard this right. So where the body of the chopper went into the water, that's 5 feet deep right there?
Approximately 5 feet deep.
Okay, because there's that video of the blade whirling around, and that went into the water significantly further.
Yeah, that's the area the water's approximately 75 deep, 75 foot. They have found some items on the floor based on sonar and things like that that are not normal appearances, and that's why they're continuing to mark that. Hudson River is a very, very tough place to dive. So we're dealing with the expertise of the NYPD, and they're going to make sure it's done safely, and we're going to recover what's down there. It may take some time, but they're going to stay there until they have to get what they have to get. Excuse me?
Visibility in the water.
Very, very murky. I mean, I was there last night when they were physically removing the victims. You literally can't see a hand in front of you, but they did a phenomenal job.
Okay.
Forgive this ignorant question, but is 75 feet deep from where?
From the shoreline.
Greg Kears.
Greg Kierce, K-I-E-R-C-E.
And that's not a radius, that's
Straight out.
straight out.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah.
Mayor, can you specify as best as possible the Jersey, whatever location on the Jersey City side the crash occurred closest to?
You want to answer that, Greg, as well? You must stay with that as well.
If you're familiar with the Port Authority vents down at down by foot of 6th Street, roughly, it's adjacent right to the Port Authority vent. It's adjacent right to the Port Authority pier where it houses the vents for the Howland Tunnel. Yes.
Gary, you posted a little bit about it on social media, but can you just tell us a little bit more about the family?
I'm sorry?
They told us, I touched on the fact that they were here for a birthday trip for the mom. Her birthday is actually, I understand, in June, but it was a trip that they were doing now. It was one of the child's birthdays today. He was here for a business trip, arriving on Sunday, touring some Siemens entities in Pittsburgh, is what they told us. And then they extended the trip with the family arriving a couple days ago for the birthday portion of the trip.
Birthday today or yesterday?
They said his birthday, or one of the child's birthday, was today, is what they said. Yeah. Excuse me? I don't know. Yeah?
Just a quick question about the birds. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with the birds in this area. Is it a typical problem that there are birds that could possibly, interact with
There were three working theories. There was the birds discussion, there was drone discussion, and mechanical failure discussion. And we'll see where it goes. And again, I don't want to hypothesize, but I think as time goes on, we'll leave it at that.
What are your thoughts on the regulation issue?
I think that you need more regulation there, and we need the FAA to restrict the tourism on the helicopter. It's a very crowded space, and those of you that aren't familiar with it, you only could go so high because you can't interfere with Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK on the commercial airline. So you have all of the news outlets, you have the transportation, you have the tourism, all in a very, very tight space that can't go above a certain elevation. So it is very congested, and it's a very, very congested space on the ground. So it's dangerous. And as he said, had it been 50 feet more towards the shoreline, it would have landed on a walkway that is highly trafficked and not far from a playground over there close to Newport. And it's another 100 feet. It could have been in the middle of Newport Parkway. So it's a very dangerous situation.
You want the bad?
Yeah, I think that you need to be practical about it. Post 9/11, there was restrictions, and it seemed like it worked okay. And then over time, we've brought back those restrictions and more traffic. That helicopter did multiple tours that day already. They are very busy operators, and that probably is going to lead to questions around maintenance and all of those sort of things. And by the time it's resolved, the world will stop watching this, unfortunately, because it takes the NTSB a lot of time to get to a resolution. But there's going to be a lot of questions on how those tourist operators work, and I think there's reason to be concerned over it.
Hi, Mayor. Josh Knight from the New York Post. The pilot has been ID'd as a
Yeah.
Navy SEAL vet, and I was just wondering if you've been in contact with his family.
They told us I have not, he's been in contact. The mother is in Utah, and he's a veteran and African-American male, 36 years old?
Yes,
36 years old. Yeah.
For clarification purposes, Mr. Mayor, for your division, we understand there were 3 children. Can you clarify the ages?
Do you have the exact ages? Kim, when we're done, Kim will give you the exact ages. Kim will come up at the end and give you the exact ages. She'll give you that information. She'll give you that. Anything else before we wrap it up? Yes.
Was running out of fuel a factor in this
Yeah.
crash? Would that be
I mean, look, you have these operators saying a lot of different things. I think a reasonable person would come to the conclusion that if you're a pilot and you're going on a trip, you would recognize whether you have fuel or you don't have fuel in that. That helicopter was used on multiple trips earlier in that day. So I would likely rule that out. I'm going to go with the hypothesis that that's probably not going to end up being the outcome on this.
Have you worked with the family in Spain?
We spoke today to the executives, to the executives at Siemens, and they flew out last night. And the one that flew out actually has a close family relationship with the deceased. They would vacation together, so there's familiarity there. He was facilitating conversations with the consulate in order to facilitate the release of the bodies to bring them back to Spain. And then, as we said earlier, family members should be arriving in an hour or so.
You said the brother-in-law.
Kim will give you the pilot's name and the ages.
Brother-in-law, you said?
Yeah, I believe it was the wife's brother. Yeah,
Yeah, another question for your emergency manager, folks.
Greg.
Items that the divers are looking for, does that aircraft have a black box, are you looking for that?
Whatever items, as I say, I'm not familiar with whether there's a black box or not on that type of an aircraft. What they are looking for now in particular was the transmission, the rotors, and other associated items associated with the actual engine and things like that. When the cut chopper was taken up, it was very, very seriously damaged. So as the NTSB chair had said, it was delivered to the Army Corps of Engineers via boat. And this morning, they were over there first thing, doing their first portion of the investigation. But as I mentioned, there were some items that were found on the sonar that is a matter of interest. So they are continuing to do their dives. Weather permitting, of course, it's a tough, very choppy out there today, but they're the best at what they do.
Thank you.